boom. What you couldn't see is that Will was actually doing IT work as well on this thing to get it rocking and rolling, which he knows 1,000 times more about than I do. So it ain't like it's not a surprise.
No, after last night, I'm not going to brag on my IT ability at all.
We were trying an 8 o'clock one last night, and we couldn't get the thing to work, so we bombed.
Yeah.
So, we apologize to folks that may have been trying to watch. It was Rick Dunn's fault. Y'all can blame it on him. And the reason I'm saying that is because Rick Dunn's standing right behind the camera right now, picking on him. We love you, Rick.
And Rick, how did you not be here for the last, we were talking Firehouse Academy? That's when you were supposed to be here.
And we
working.
working.
Rick was working.
That's a good cop-out common story. I bet you've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so here we are into our next session. We got my buddy Michael Dozier, and over the last couple of years, built a pretty good relationship. We've had several different opportunities to podcast together, and Fire Improvement Conference, got to spend some time on the big stage. But what we've got to do over the time is just have conversations. Michael's one of those guys that just does it for the right reasons. Loves it, and he's got a pretty good program that I think is catching steam. Asking you to teach it all over the place. And you're going to find out that he's country. He's from the country. And he's one of those people I always give Benita Waters hell about with that accent. And then
sounds like her.
Yeah. and then when it's more impressive when the intelligence comes out. You're like, oh, I really like that.
And that's why I connected with him the first couple of times I saw him and heard him and everything. I was like, hey, that's me. I got that guy. I mean, I can relate to that. You know what I'm saying? Just that calm, cool, laid back. And then when he says something, you go, dang, that's awesome, man. Well, just where'd that come from? Because he looks the package, and now you see it's up there too.
But what we found out over time is that we share similar stories, similar stories. Former athletes that kind of looking for some way to continue that, and you want to be part of something bigger than yourself. So
is professional donut eating a sport? I mean, that's about the only athletic event I would qualify for. So I was.
I thought you were talking about me because I'm professional.
No, okay. Well, I was just checking or whatnot.
Yeah, I've got a high level of donut eating. At some point, we're gonna let Michael talk in this.
Hey man, I didn't see you sitting there. How you doing? Yeah, well, we appreciate you being here with us.
I appreciate it.
You are a rock star. You're up and coming, and I'm just glad you're here.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, I've been blessed to get out a lot the last couple of years, and this is still, my favorite conference to come to. And it's right in my backyard too, so that helps. But, I can bring my kids, and there's nothing else I have found anywhere in the country that provides the quality of stuff that this conference brings to the table that's free.
Well, and
you don't have to register. You just show up and do what you want.
And we talk about that is that unless you do get out and go other places, you don't realize it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's been in my backyard. Other than a handful of years that went up to Columbia, it's been right here my entire career. And I never really appreciated it until probably like the last 2 or 3 years when I was like, oh, my God, I get out and this other stuff's so expensive and you have to pre-register and your fire chief's got to sign off on you going and everything else. And this one, you can have the worst relationship in the world with your fire chief and just walk in the doors here and take whatever class you want. Well, don't need permission or anything.
We were talking about that earlier because now I'm a firefighter, and I'm not trying to put you up somewhere because I know you're humble enough and you're not going to believe it. But if I was coming from my hometown and I saw this guy that I've been hearing and seeing online and everything else, I can walk up and talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
And we can have this
100%.
Conversation. And me and you with all the speakers that are here, it's just an opportunity to network, share, learn from, be a part of something bigger that's going on, and it's right here in your backyard, and it costs you a whopping nothing. So it's a great example to where people who have listened and taken your classes can come see you and your family walking around out here.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's what I was that kid, growing up, and I was talking to Mike Galliano the other day before our classes, and he doesn't remember it, but one of his first years coming here, which I guess was 15, 16 years ago, I took his class, and I was just a kid, and he gave me a book, and we got to talk and chat, and he doesn't remember it, and the book's on the bookshelf at the Firehouse right now. His air management book not too long after he wrote it, and that's like an $80, $90 book.
Yeah.
And he just handed me one at the end of class because I asked a question or something, and then to have people walking up to me, these young guys around here that I don't know, walking up and saying, hey, hey Cap, or talking like we've known each other forever is pretty overwhelming, pretty cool.
Paying it forward.
Well, and so FDIC is a hell of a show.
Absolutely.
And if you ever get the opportunity, you need to go. You need to see it.
Absolutely.
Because the scale of production that they put on, the classes and all those things, but it's expensive. And if I'm going to go, I'm staying downtown. I'm not staying outside. I want to be right there so I can walk to the show and all those things. But all those people that are there are here. It's on a smaller scale, but all those things are here. So like you said, for free, you can come in here, walk in the doors, and get everything that's offered there. Those same instructors, the Mike Gaglianos, Paul Combs, they're at FDIC.
Yep.
No, they're here in South Carolina too.
But those things you picked up from Mike obviously have influenced, and others have influenced you in your career and motivated you to the level you are now and to the renown that you've got in your ability to teach and everything. How did you, what fired you up? What got you in that pathway? What started, I mean, you could have become complacent. You could have just taken it as a career. Obviously something sparked in there somewhere that fired you up and did it. What's that internal?
I want to say this, and I don't think you guys want to take this the wrong way, but I want to preface this with look, I love Horry County Fire Rescue. It saved my life when I was 20 years old and didn't have any direction, and for some reason hired me, with no training and no background in the fire service, didn't know what I wanted to do, and it gave me direction and got me pointed and got me out of a lot of trouble, honestly. But having said that, your own department's going to frustrate you more than anything that you'll ever come across.
Absolutely.
So a lot of what I talk about is born out of frustrations that I've dealt with personally. And we're in a really great place right now, but I mean, we've been through some hard times in our department, and I've seen good and bad, as we all have in our own departments, no matter how big or small we are. And so that's where a lot of that motivation's come from. And then, seeing guys, like you said, guys like Mike, I mean, seeing how humble he is, and he came and taught at Horry County last year, I believe, or earlier this year. And we really don't know each other very well. And then I bumped into him at FDIC, and he remembered me not as an instructor, but he remembered me from class,
right?
Being just a student, like a little 30-second chat we had in class or something like that. And just seeing how humble he is with that type of stuff is definitely, sets the example for what it should be. And the other thing is, like, 95% of the guys that are out there on the circuit are like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been my experience. Not to say there's not an outlier here or there that thinks they're too big to talk to somebody, but for the most part, they're just firemen, and they want to talk shop with anybody that wants to talk.
Well, you found it the right way. So you had things that you wanted to fix in your firehouse, not at your department, in your firehouse, and you started working on those, and they became successful in your firehouse. And then that expanded out to other firehouses still in your department. And then it just kind of gained speed, and somebody saw it, somebody heard it, and says, oh, other people need this. Yeah. And so then that kind of expanded you outside of Horry. And to me, that's the way to make it. Don't take shortcuts. Don't try and get the new fad, the new trend, and try and get known. Mm-hmm. The best way to do it, the best way to be successful as an instructor and to make the biggest impact is find something you're passionate about.
Right.
And just follow that.
Absolutely.
And take it where it goes.
Absolutely.
The guys that are like, oh, well, this will be a great, interesting topic, and I can probably make a lot of money teaching on it, the programs usually end up trash.
Yep.
And those are the programs that I walk out of 5 minutes into it because they start talking about themselves, and I'm done.
It's not genuine.
No.
You can see through it. It's smoke, and you can see through it. And when you come across somebody it's in their heart, and you see it, and you know it, I'm sold. I'm on board. I don't know what you're talking about, but I know it's born from something inside of you that means something to you. And your example of your own department is nothing to be ashamed of, because if anybody really wants to be honest, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
People have evolution in departments. Sometimes you peak, sometimes you valley. We've all had it. It's just you had the guts, and others do, to just say, hey, I'm at this point right now. What can I do about this? Take some responsibility and try to change. Here we are talking about what we were going to say, culture,
Well, good, bad, or indifferent, I can't help myself from trying to find out what someone's intent is and what's their motivation. So as soon as I meet you, that's what I'm investigating. Mm-hmm. And if you're about the right things, you're my guy. If not, then we're probably not going to be friends in the future. And guys around here aren't seeking my approval, and I'm cool with that. But it's just something I do personally. I was on the phone with you 5 minutes preparing to do the jive, and I knew you were my guy. You're one of us. Just be the way that you were talking about what you presented. Now, if that's important to you, cool. If not, cool. But I mean, is it okay to judge? Maybe not, but I do. And I'm looking for people who are genuine. I'm looking for people doing the right way. And I need to know that before I need to know your message.
Yeah.
So I appreciate where you come from is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean, just to touch on that, like you said, starting in the Firehouse, that's one of my big beliefs is that, I got 41 firehouses in Horry County, and there's only so much I can blame on my fire chief. And I know fire chiefs, I think they almost sign up for punishment.
Lightning rod.
They sign up to get, have people mad at them about everything. And that was me for a long time. It was everything was the fire chief's fault or the ops chief or the training chief or whatever. And then whenever I started realizing, like, hey, I'm at this firehouse 24 hours at the time, and 40 firehouse, the fire chief's not coming by. Very rarely. Mm-hmm. He's not popping in. I'm a 40-minute drive from headquarters with traffic and stuff at the beach. I can't blame it so much on him. I mean, realistically, like 99% of stuff going on in that firehouse is me and is something that I can affect change on. And I talked about it in class yesterday. I asked the class, what culture do you want to instill in your new people when they come into your firehouse? And there was some talk, the department culture's this, and our culture's not good. You decide whatever that culture is.
Absolutely.
Like, you decide it. Like, when you come to work every morning, you decide what the culture is in your firehouse, and just do it. Like, nobody else affects it but you. And I promise you, a fire chief, doing the right things 100% is influential and can change culture probably faster in a big department. But a backstep fireman, a new guy for that matter, in a firehouse can change culture quickly. And I've seen some firehouses, their culture flips, good or bad, depending on the personnel assigned there, within a few months. And then boom, it's like a whole different place to be at. So whenever you accept that as just a responsibility and something that's in your wheelhouse, no matter what rank you're at, it's in your wheelhouse to affect, it makes it a lot harder to sit there and blame up constantly. Mm-hmm. And start looking around and saying, hey, what can we do to make this place what we want it to be?
So what I know is, and because, we've had conversations, is that you made a conscious decision to take ownership.
Oh, yeah, man. I that Extreme Ownership book, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, I probably read it 10 or 12 years ago, not long after it came out. I don't know how long it's been out. It's been a while ago. And, it kind of changed. It changed my life, honestly, when I read it. And I had kind of grasped some of those concepts. It wasn't foreign to me, but when I read it, the way that they put it,
application.
Yeah, and
right.
I started looking at it and was like, oh man, this is all in my wheelhouse to affect. And I can save you $14. You don't have to buy the book, the Cliff Notes. Like, quit making excuses, quit blaming other people. If you can affect it. Control what you can control. Stop losing sleep over the other stuff. And I knew all that stuff. If you want to get down to it, it's even all biblical at some level. There's tons of examples of other people that weren't Navy SEALs, that weren't firemen, that are saying, like, look, take ownership of it, control what you can control, don't worry about stuff outside your control. And when you do that and you start trying to make your bubble everything it can possibly be, you stop worrying about the stuff that's outside of your bubble as much, which is, for me, is one of the hardest things. I lose way more sleep than I should about stuff that's not going on in my firehouse, which I'm sure if you care, that's how we all were at some point. But whenever you can bring your focus back to that bubble, whether it's that firehouse or if you're a battalion chief, your battalion or your department, not worrying about what's going on outside, it makes life a lot easier to digest. And
I guess the question there is, does your circle of influence match your circle of concern? They should be similar, because 100%. The things that are outside of that circle of influence, it needs to be somebody else's issue to deal with, because you got enough stuff of your own.
Yeah.
And when you made that conscious decision, and I don't want to say, you didn't say disgruntled, you said frustrated. So there was a time where you were frustrated, but when you made that transition to take ownership, and it's mine, this is my responsibility, I control this firehouse, how fast did it change for you?
Oh, like almost overnight. Almost overnight. And it's I still get frustrated.
Oh,
we
sure.
all do. I think if you care about something, you're going to get frustrated about it. I get frustrated with my kids. You think I don't love them? I do, man. I love them. I care for them. I want what's best for them. They frustrate the heck out of me. They drive me crazy. But it's no different in the Firehouse, So whenever I started looking at it from that perspective of like they're mine, like these people in this Firehouse are mine. And sometimes I'll post something on Facebook and I'll see a comment, you shouldn't say they're yours, or HR wouldn't. I don't care what HR thinks about that stuff, man. I think as long as my intentions are right, if HR doesn't like that I take ownership of those folks, that I, not treat them like they're my kids, but I care for them like they're my kids, or like they're my little brother or my cousin, or family to me. Then I'll eat that paperwork whenever HR comes.
Well, I'm gonna tell you,
you won't have to eat.
Yeah,
don't worry.
I'm gonna tell you, if you don't feel like they're yours, you're doing it wrong.
That's right.
Absolutely,
and that's on and off duty.
Yeah, and that's something I've seen, and that's been me. That was me early on as a leader. I wasn't taking ownership of that stuff, and I was looking at it like, and the reason was because I had some leaders. I had some really good leaders when I was a fireman, but I also had some folks that I felt like probably didn't take ownership of me and my progression and development. So I had seen the bad side of it. Whenever I first became a leader, I was kind of that same opinion, like, hey, this is on you guys. Like, you want to fix it, go fix it. Instead of saying like, hey, if I can fix it, I'm going to fix it. Like, if it's in my realm of influence, I'm going to influence it. And I've also, I see folks. I've heard other leaders, or I say leaders, people that are out on the circuit, speakers and things, and they say how hard it is to influence inside of your circle whenever you get out, the whole a prophet in your own city kind of thing, which is a biblical too,
right.
And it hasn't been my experience though. My experience has been that I really don't care how influential I am in the state of California and in Florida and New York, because my reach has gotten out there, if I can't influence in my own Firehouse. So the last thing I ever want to happen is me go teach at some department somewhere, and somebody from that department happens to know a guy in my Firehouse and shoots him a text, hey, what's up with this Dozier guy? Is he legit? And this guy in my Firehouse is like, no.
Yeah.
He's telling,
it's hot air out here.
Yeah, he's telling a story. That's not how it really is. He's asleep on the couch all the time, like he's disengaged. I don't want that.
Yep.
So my focus 100% of the time is inside of my Firehouse, inside of my battalion, inside of my shift, inside of my department. And when I'm able to get out and influence other people, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
Because I do, I'm a little bit romantic about the fire service. I want the fire service to be what it could be, but first of all, I want Socastee Firehouse to be what it can be. I want the 2nd Battalion in Horry County to be what it can be. I want Horry County Fire Rescue to be the best department in this state. I want the state of South Carolina to be the best fire service, anywhere around the country. So I'm going to start my influence local, and as I can branch it out, I'll branch it out. But my focus, I don't ever see my focus being outside the doors of my Firehouse.
But we got Ricky Jenkins is sitting right over there, so he's going to bear me out. That's also a biblical principle. That's increasing borders. And so what you're doing is you're focusing on what your borders are, but saying I'm willing to accept the increase in those borders, but I'm going to focus here.
Yeah.
And you know this, and Will does, and I've just been blessed to go into a lot of fire stations, a lot of houses, and it only takes you just a few brief minutes before I can get a taste of what's happening in that building. I know what's going. You can just feel it. When your people just first see you when you walk in the door, you feel it. You know it. And somewhere in there, somebody's going to say something about morale. That was the catchword before culture. Morale's bad around here. Okay, and the question is, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
What right here in this building? No, I don't want to hear about policy, procedure, and HR and everything else. What are you doing right here? What'd you do today? What'd you do last hour? And that's really kind of what you're saying, is that inside of your borders, here's what are you doing to take any responsibility for that?
Oh, absolutely. And another thing I talk about in class, I generally think that fire chiefs around this country want what is best for their departments. Mm-hmm. Not to say there's outliers. There probably are some outliers here and there that are ego-driven or have agendas or whatever. But for the most part, they want what's best, if for no other reason than it makes their job easier when things are going smooth. So if once you accept that they want what's best, don't you think that if they could fix the problem with an SOP, with a memo, with an email, that they would do it? If you're going to accept that they want what's best, you got to also accept they would fix it if they could. Right. Well, a lot of that stuff can only be fixed in the Firehouse. Mm-hmm. It can only be fixed at the lowest level possible. It can be fixed by the guys and gals that are living in that firehouse every third day, making a decision to say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to treat people right. We're going to train. We're going to drill, all that stuff. The SOP is never going to make you go out there and drill.
Right.
The SOP is not going to make you learn. The SOP is not going to make you do better. Now, it's awesome if that stuff's in place, but it doesn't have to be in place. You can still do a good job without it.
That's that ownership thing again, though. You're looking at them like their family. It's not a biological. It's cultural. It's professional. They are your family, and if you look at those individuals in that manner, again, like you said, not worried about HR, but those things are contagious.
Yep.
Those things bleed over into everybody around you. If I'm next door to you, I'm in the next district over, and I'm seeing you doing this. Oh, wait a minute now, I got to have some of that.
Yeah.
And so that's what's begun to happen here, right? I mean, that's for you and for your
100%,
department, and we plug them a little bit too.
Probably the proudest thing I am, and it's stuff that nobody will ever see. It's stuff that never makes it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. When a company officer from another firehouse reaches out to me, not a fireman that's pissed off at their company officer.
Right.
When a company officer reaches out and says, hey, I'm having this problem. What do I do? Mm-hmm. Hey, I saw y'all did this. What can we do to do that? Like that's the times where I'm like, oh man, more so than getting the FDIC notification, more so than coming here to teach. When those guys reach out, my peers, which to me is the hardest place to lead, is reaching those peers who are at the same. You don't have any kind of rank on them. There's no like inherent respect there. You have to earn every ounce of it. When they reach out is when I'm like, oh, something's going right.
That's the example of real cultural change, because that's really what has changed in this thing from arguably a post-World War II mentality of top down, you just get it and shut up, to now the cultural change of saying, I've got to get better. You, my brothers, you, my peers, you, my rank, if that's the way, can help me do that. And I'm not afraid to say, look, let's talk. Let me give you a call. Hey, what you doing this afternoon? Let's meet you at the border. Let's meet whatever. Absolutely. And that's the real cultural change that the fire service can enjoy.
So a question I have for you is, I think there's going to be people watching this podcast, maybe people in the audience here right now, that feel that. Like, damn, I could be doing better. I should be doing better. I need to take more ownership. So what's the low-hanging fruit? What's the starting point? How do I get this ball rolling? Because I think there are a lot of people that are trying to eat the elephant one bite, everything. What's the low-hanging fruit? What can I grab? Give me a starting point.
I'll give you two spots.
There you go.
The first one we'll say is, and this is right out of that extreme ownership, is discipline. To say like, hey, when we come to work, when we come to shift, when we come to drill night at our volley house, whatever, we are going to do this handful of things. These are non-negotiables. We're going to get a workout in. We're going to do a good rig check. We're going to get a drill in, even if it's just 20 minutes. And then from a more like inside the firehouse culture thing, we're going to eat together. We're going to have a conversation on the pad after dinner. I'm the boss. I'm going to get out of the office and help them clean. That little stuff. And at the end of the day, all those little things, they're all small things. They're small things. Like when we have dinner in my firehouse, we eat in order of seniority from lowest to highest. So, I eat last. My lieutenant gets his food before me. The senior man gets his food before him, all the way back down to the probie. The ambulance crew's busy. They usually get to eat first. But, that probie, his first day in the firehouse, he's fixing his plate first. And at the end of the day, it's small potatoes. It's low-hanging fruit. But it's a little reinforcement every shift to them to say, like, hey, he believes that we come before him. He's putting us before him, and like I said, it's not a big deal. They're going to get fed either way.
Right.
We fixed enough food. They're not going to run out of food. So like they're going to get nourished, but it's that little reinforcement each time of like, hey, he's saying that we're more important than him. So there's that discipline piece of it, and we're doing this. We're not. This isn't up for discussion. We are doing this. Not a micromanaging thing. I don't really care what it looks like. You can run the drill, but we're going to do a drill. So there's that side. The other part of it, I think, and this is where, and you kind of touched on it already, like you need to actually care for your people. When everything started clicking for me was when I started not being afraid to say that, hey, I love them.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
I love these people, and I have kind of a personal mission statement that I've adopted over the past few years, and I use this on and off the clock when I'm at the firehouse, when I'm on the fire ground. It drives decisions. When I'm at home, especially, it drives decisions. Am I doing this because I love them? Am I doing this because I want what's best for them? And when I take that mission statement, that personal mission statement, I take that frame and lay it on top of these hard decisions that we get, even on the fire ground, when I'm having to make a hard decision on, like, hey, we're going to be at risk here. Like, we may get hurt doing this, but I love my community and I want what's best for the person that's trapped. I can lay that frame on top of it, and my answer is inside of that frame. And if the answer's out here, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not touching an answer outside of this frame. Of I'm going to do this because I love them, because I want what's best. That's what I lay on top. That's why I'm okay with my 9-year-old, my 14-year-old being pissed off at me, because I said, hey, you guys can't do this, or hey, you guys got to, your bedtime's earlier than it was because you got to get up early in the morning, because I love them and I want them to be rested tomorrow and things. So I lay that on top of it. My answer's in the frame. My answer out here is going to make them happy,
Right.
but it's not what's best for them. My answer in here is going to make them mad, but it's what's best for them. I'm okay with it. I'll lay down and sleep tonight and be fine with it, and when that clicked for me, my winning Firehouse program, there's 10 rules for firemen and company officers that I lay out, and the 10th one's love your people, and I talk about loving your community. I talk about that hand of it, loving your family at home, loving your crew in the firehouse, and at the end of it, when I tie it all together, I say, look, if you'll just get number 10 right, you don't have to think about 1 through 9. 1 through 9 just happens. It just organically happens when you love them, because if you're doing things because you love them, you don't have to think about creating opportunities for them. You don't have to think about, eating last. All that stuff just happens when you love them. So if you get that part right, the rest of it just falls into place. You don't even have to be that good at this stuff, and it just falls into place.
That's probably one of the most squared away answers I've ever. That's probably we're recording this, so probably I'm just going to use that and just hit play and just sit from now on, because that's the simple solution to most of the problems.
I honestly believe that, and where I got that from, was and it's on my patch, Well, it's not on this one. We couldn't fit it in there, but in the book of Corinthians, Paul wrote to the church of Corinth, and he's laying out these thing, because he'd visited and we went back, and then he's hearing these things like, oh, you guys aren't doing this stuff you said you were going to do. Like, I laid out a plan for you, you're not following it, and to go through it. All that stuff applies to the fire service.
All right.
All the stuff they were doing, this church was separating, they were following, these people wanted power, these wanted power, there was sexual immorality, like all this stuff's going on that we see in the fire service, we see in our houses, in our homes, and he kind of tore them apart. He said some things they were doing good too. He gave them the whole positive, negative, the honey and flies, that whole mentality, But then he laid out, and he's like, "Look, if you guys will just love each other, do all that you do be done in love. If you just love each other, the rest of it will just happen." So when I saw it, and I'd seen everybody saw that when they were a kid. I read that, and I was reading. I did a devotional several years ago called "Act Like Men," and the main verse in it, act like men, and at the end of it, it ties it. It's let all that you do be done in love. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that makes everything else make sense.
Yep.
Even though I'd already read it before, but
Yep.
I saw that, and I was like, I can lay this on top of hard decisions, and they might not be right, man. Like, there might be collateral damage sometimes. There's going to come a time as a leader where you're going to do something for someone because you love them, because what you want what's best for them, and your relationship may never be the same after that. They might stay mad at you.
That's right.
But I can sleep at night, knowing that I did it for not a personal gain, that I did it because I legitimately wanted what was best for them. Because you can't serve somebody if you don't love them.
Yep.
I mean, everybody talks about servant leadership. I've read several servant leadership books, and some of them they want, it's the HR thing. They stop short of that because HR doesn't want to hear you say that you love them, and they stop short of tying it all together with love. And I've read a few that they tie it together with love. Well, that's the only way it makes sense to me.
Well, and my plug would be, and you would agree, I think the best leadership book is written about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah,
it's probably
100%.
the case, and a lot of it's based on that. So good for you for kind of following that, because that is the basis for it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I say too many bad words at the firehouse, and all that. But I hope that my guys, if no other reason, they might not think I'm the best fireground officer. They might not think I'm the best administrative guy. They might not think all that stuff, but I don't want them to ever think that I don't care for them, that I don't want what's best for them, that I don't want them to go home, that I don't want them to do a good job. And that's where my focus is all the time.
That's perfect. That's about as perfect.
We sure appreciate you being here.
I appreciate y'all.
Always appreciate your mission. And one of the most important things I think about what you do and how you do it in your program is that there's a lot of self-reflection for you to get to where you're at now, that you had to look at yourself, because a lot of times officers said, I need to fix this crew, way before they realize, no, I need to fix me before I can even touch we. So
yeah, and I'm inherently, I'm a selfish person. We all are. I think human nature, we're all selfish, and I was a very selfish person when I first got into fire service, and even when I was first a leader, when I first made captain, I went through a lot of struggles because I was so selfish. And when I embrace the other side of that, you can't love someone and be selfish, not legitimately.
Yeah.
Right.
You're always going to be limited in what you can actually do for them if you're going to be selfish. So when I flipped that script, the world opened up to me, and a lot of stuff that didn't make sense, a lot of stuff that was hard to swallow, became a lot easier to digest whenever I embraced that side of not the job, but just of life, period. Even at home, that was a struggle I had at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a struggle a lot of people go through when they get married.
Oh yeah.
It's like they're selfish, and
there's a lot of similarities in everything we've been talking about with that.
Yeah,
sure.
It's like I joke. One of the volunteers at the Firehouse, he was married for about 40-some years before his wife passed away, and he jokes, and I joke now because I heard the joke from him. I said, I've been married 15 years and happily married for about 4 of them. so we started figuring it out about 5 years ago, where
how about that?
we got on the same page and we stopped being selfish. Well, it's no different in the Firehouse. Things don't have to be complicated.
Absolutely. You know what? I got a new role model, somebody that I want to be like. I appreciate you being here and everything.
Absolutely.
Today.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate everything you guys are doing for the association.
I got somebody now that I want to grow up to be like. So
That's
perfect. That's perfect.
Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely. Thank you.